This comes up a lot when I'm talking to buyers looking to buy a business. Which method is best? On-market deal sourcing versus off-market deal sourcing. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you the pros and cons of each and what should you do to be best prepared. And stay till the end because I'll give you my best tips at the end of this video. Let's get to it. Everybody, welcome to my channel. I am your host, Landaverde, business broker and commercial lender, helping you buy and scale a profitable business. If you are a small business owner looking to increase your wealth or diversify your wealth by buying a profitable business, or a W-2 employee looking to finally get out of the rat race to become the CEO of your own company by buying a profitable business, you are in the right place. Please subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to hit the bell. You'll be notified every Thursday when new videos come out. So let's begin with the on-market approach, what I call reactive approach. So let's begin with the pros. What are the pros? Number one, you got more deals to look at. There's a higher deal flow. And it's just easier because there's probably over 100 websites out there. Think about all the websites from the franchise type business brokers, the Transworlds, the Sunbelts. There's our own website, a business team, which has hundreds of deals. There's also BizBuySell, businessbroker.net, and a bunch of other, over 100 places where you could go and just look at deals. It's kind of like the lazy armchair approach, and you'll be looking at deals every day. So there's more deals to look at. So that's a pro. Another pro is price may be reasonable, especially if represented by a knowledgeable business broker. And that is the big caveat. And the big if a business is listed for sale in one of the major websites and it's represented by a discerning, knowledgeable business broker, chances are that the price may be a good price. Not always, but most of the time. Why? Because as business brokers, we have to do comparable analysis. We have to look at the comps, what the market is saying on a history of similar business have sold in the last 24 months. We have to know what that is. And we almost always go with 100% market approach, meaning what the market bears. And that's what we will suggest to the seller. Hey, look, it looks like your industry, for your business, because of the revenue and your cash flow, you should probably go no more than 3 times your seller discretionary earnings. So if that is agreed, chances are that you're gonna have a deal that is priced right, which is a pro, but it's also a con, and I'll get to that in a second. So number 3 is less time consuming. So all you have to do is keep checking on the websites every day or once a week. I mean, I've seen a lot of buyers that spend hours and hours looking at all these websites, trying to find deals and put them on spreadsheets. And I have even my own deal tracker that I give to buyers to how to keep track of all this, because it can get overwhelming just looking at the amount of deals that are out there. And there are even now curate or content aggregators that we're for a monthly service, a monthly fee. They will send you a curated list of deals versus certain parameters that you can access. It will tell you the business brokerage that is representing the deal. It tell you the type of this business, the industry, the purchase price or the sales price in this case, cash flow, EBITDA or SDE or EBIT, whatever it is, and some other information how to get a hold of the representative for the seller, etc. So it's very convenient. It takes a lot of the research and the guesswork out, and you get this served up in a platter once a week in an email to you, and that's great to have. So those are the pros. The cons are, number 1, there's more competition for deals. You've heard me say before that so for instance, I got deals that are coming up in the market. In fact, I got a deal coming out next week and probably a deal coming up the following week. So because I am also got deals on the sales side. I help buyers, but I'm also a broker representing sellers. Now, this is a trick in the business. We typically don't put out one of our listings in the market until we have vetted it with our internal buyers list. So if you are part of my internal buyers list, and I have about a couple hundred buyers in my list, they will get first dibs on my deal before it goes on the internet. So chances are that A lot of the brokers that I know, I'm going to be doing the same thing. So guess what? By the time a deal hits the internet, it's just for the brokers to actually create a buyer's list. It's just the overflow. We already worked out a deal with our internal buyer list, and they're going to be buying. If this is a business that is priced properly, you are going to have competition because there is probably 15 buyers to every deal out there. So that's a con where you're in the on-market approach, which is the reactive approach. Number two, there is less time to analyze deals because of the higher competition. You got to move quickly. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to be stuck in what to do, because how do you know it's a good deal? Even if it is priced correctly by a business broker, your job is to make sure that you agree with it or disagree with it. So you have to have the tools to know, hey, when is a good deal? How do you know you're looking at a good deal? And how do you base that off? What research? What is the acceptable variable multiples of cash flow according to the industry? Do you have all that kind of intelligence? And if you do, and my buyers do have all that kind of knowledge, then you'll know when you're looking at a good deal. So you can move quickly. Rather than trying to spend a week analyzing a deal, you can do it in 20 minutes. That could turn into a pro, but right now for the average buyer, it's a con, right? So another one, number three, is less room for negotiations because of the potential multiple offers on the best deals. Now, I'm going to say this for the record. A lot of people do, the on-market approach among business acquisitions, business buyers has kind of a bad rep because a lot of people think that bad businesses get listed. There's not a really good deals. There's no diamonds in the rough. The reality is that there are good deals on Biz Buy Sell, on some of the other national platforms, but those good deals would go quickly. You're going to have multiple offers. So because you're dealing with really good deals and the best deals, you're going to have less room. So if you have analysis paralysis, or you're not ready to move, snooze, you lose. Those buyers who are aggressive, who have a game plan, they have already their deal team, they have their accountants, their lawyers, they're probably represented by a business broker. They have a deal team put together. They're going to execute quickly, right? So it goes back to what I said in other videos before, that if your why is strong enough, you're going to overcome anyhow when it comes to buying a business, right? You're going to be removing all the obstacles and you're going to try to go after those deals before everybody else does, which means that if you're not ready, that goes against you. However, there's this con also for a well-meaning business broker on a really good deal, is dealing with unresponsive brokers or FSBO sellers, which is for sale by owners. Now, since they're going to be inundated with buyers. Now, it is true that I get emails every week, every day, somebody wanting to buy a business, and they may or may not be qualified. And it takes me about 30 seconds from talking to a buyer to find out that they're a legit buyer. If I can sniff that somebody who don't know what they're doing, and they haven't come across one of my channels, and if I haven't coached that buyer before, chances are they're not going to know some of the answers to my questions on how do I figure what a pre-qualified buyer looks like. And if they're not discerning, I'm not going to get back to them. In fact, if I get a voicemail for somebody who don't know what they're talking about, and I have a few other voicemails for people who I think I want to talk to first, I'm going to talk to them first. Why? Because I'm trying to close a deal. So you're going to be dealing with unresponsive brokers or sellers when you're in the on-market approach. All right, so that's enough of that. Just to recap the pros: more deals to look at, price may be reasonable, less time consuming. The cons is more competition on deals, less time to analyze deals, less room for negotiation, and dealing with unresponsive brokers or sellers. Need help in buying a business? If so, let's chat. All you have to do is reach out to me. You can drop me a comment below, or you can send me an email. My email address is in the description section of this video. Let's set up a Zoom call for 50 minutes, and I'll give you powerful, actionable steps for you to follow your journey. Let's connect. Now let's move on to the off-market approach. Now, which I call the proactive approach. Is this better than the on-market approach? You'll soon find out. So the pros of working in an off-market approach: this is more like the professional level. There is no competition when you're dealing with an off-market approach, because you're not talking to a seller who actually has the business where somebody else is looking at also competing with you. You get the first crack at the business. You get to talk to a seller who at the beginning stages of thinking about, you know what, Leo, you're right. I hadn't thought about that, but you know what? I'm in my late 60s. I've been doing this for 30 years. I love this business. And if I was any younger, I'll probably keep doing it. But you know what? I got some health issues. It's probably time for me to get out. Let's chat. So no competition is number one. Number two is you get more personal interaction with sellers. If you know what to say, if you build rapport, and if you get the seller to know you, like you, and will trust you with the business, if they think you are somebody that they should be talking to, you're going to have a personal connection, because guess what? They may or may not be any intermediaries, any business broker in between. You get to have an open channel, a direct channel of discussion between you and the seller, who may not have anybody else. So you're catching them when they're more vulnerable, open, more free to talk to you. Those are, I think, when you get the best deals. So number three is you'll get to know, if you follow my prescription, I've said it in other videos, when you're trying to buy a business, there is not such thing as a general practitioner. There is no way you can possibly know everything there is to know about an industry. So what I suggest to buyers is, you know what? Why don't you choose a couple of 2-3 industries that you may have a direct connection to, that you may know very well, because that's why it coincides with what the lenders want to see. They want to see you going into an industry that you know already everything about. You know the top players, and you know the top competitors, you know the top vendors, you know all the subject matter experts that are working in the industry, the lenders, the attorneys, the accountants. You're going to know everybody that interacts with that industry. You probably have attended trade shows. You understand the marketing literature. You understand a lot of the KPIs for that particular industry. By the way, KPI is a key performance indicator, those things get thrown around in conventions and trade shows. So if you get to know a couple of industries really well, and if you know the buzzwords that I said in that industry, when you're connecting with a seller, that's going to come across as if you know what you're talking about, because you probably know what you're talking about if you're involved in the industry. So if you don't know anything about the industry, do not invest in things you don't understand. I said that before. So number four is you have more control in the process. This is a more proactive approach, which means that you are building your own evergreen machine for leads, your evergreen marketing channel, your funnel. So there are, this is nothing new. The private equity groups that are looking to acquire businesses from sellers have been doing this for decades. They have an entire marketing department procuring leads for the people that are negotiating deals. So they're doing mailers, they're doing all kinds of things to get in front of, to have conversations. They don't really need the brokers. They actually use the broker to provide them leads. So you'll get more control on the process, because you're going to be responsible. You're going to be more responsible for procuring those leads, which means that you have built a system. You're going to have more control in the negotiations, including potentially even seller carry. So if you build the right know, like, and trust approach, you're having a great conversation with a seller who feels that you possibly may be a good match for their business, because let me tell you, sellers are always worried about who's going to take care of the employees. Sometimes they see them as family, and rightfully so. They've been working with these people for 20 years. They want to make sure that they're going to stick around, that you're not going to run the business to the ground. So they may be more open to potentially financing part of the deal if they feel that you're it. So you see all the power on the off-market approach. And last but not least, number 6, you're going to have more time analyzing deals prior to making offers, because there's no one competing with you. There's nobody else they're talking to. So you're going to have all this time to make sure that you perfect your offer, that is going to be a win-win. You don't want to be the bully and try to wrestle the business out of a seller. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. The sellers are too discerning to just let somebody just take over the business with no money down, and you're not understanding the industry. It doesn't really work that way. Now, Those are enough about the pros. Now let's look at the cons of the off-market approach. Number one, you're going to have, at least at the beginning, less deal flow because you're building this thing. If you've never done a mailer before, if you've never done any email marketing, if you haven't really done any cold calling, whatever means you use to actually generate flow, whether you hire a telemarketing firm, whether you buy the list, whatever approach you decide to use when trying to get in front of those sellers, at least you're going to have less deal flow. It's going to be, number two, you're going to have more work to build the machine, the sales machine that comes with taking ownership of the process. This is like sales 101, guys. For those of you who are in sales and you have a W-2 job and your job is to sell, you know what I'm talking about. Farming and lead sourcing, it's a really big deal. So you have to front load all this work to create those conversations with people. And as people move from one part of the sales process to another, as you're moving from opening to close, there's going to be less and less people, but you need to really have a lot of those people up front wanting to talk to. So it takes more work. This is probably number three, the biggest con I see with the off-market approach, which is something that I deal with as a business broker, which is the unrealistic price expectations from the sellers. Sellers almost always think that their business is worth more than it really is. Just like when you talk to somebody about their home, right? And they think that their home is worth more than it really is. And that's not until they talk to a realtor who validates the comparable sales for the last 6 months that they realize that, oh, I was off by like 100,000. So think about it. That's a house. When you're talking about a business that could be worth millions, somebody may say, hey, I think my business is worth, $5.5 million because I did $5.5 million worth of sales last year, when in reality it may be worth probably $3 million. So that gap, that is what creates most problems in the off-market approach. And it's because us as brokers, we probably spend the majority of our time convincing the seller what the ideal price to sell is. And I got stories in which I've talked to a seller probably over 6 months, and every time, I think it's worth that much. I think it's worth a lot more. How am I gonna live with whatever I have left? I have all these liabilities that I gotta pay off with the proceeds of the transaction. So it takes them a long time to come to a realistic price expectation, and sometimes they may never will, right? And if there is no clear line of transition of transition of ownership or succession plan between some family member taking over, they're going to keep working on that business till the end, until they drop. So one of the things is, unless there is a reason, a strong enough why from the seller that is probably involuntary, you're going to have a hard time negotiating price. And there are ways to do that, and I reserve those conversations for those who work with me one-on-one. The seller is going through a divorce, going through disability or imminent death of a relative. Those involuntary things may actually accelerate, and they'll be more open to negotiating more of a realistic price. And last but not least, the risk of not being perceived as a serious buyer when talking to a seller. That's a big thing. It takes some know-how. It takes some finesse. It takes for you to have the right resume, the right credentials, the right email, the right script, the right things to say to a seller to get to pay attention to you. And the buzzwords, the way you come across, your confidence, your tone, everything, all the intangibles. Do you know that when it comes to messaging, 90% of it is how you say things, and 10% exactly is just what you say. And the sellers can smell somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. So that's probably one of the risks. Now, I told you at the beginning that I would say, tell you that my best stuff at the end. So here we go. My most effective method by far, it's been mailers. Actually doing a mail campaign. So I did a mail campaign about 6 months ago. And I'm still talking to sellers of one mailer on a particular industry that I chose. So, here's the reason why mailers are very important. It's because you gotta put yourself in the mindset of the seller. Who are your sellers? These are baby boomers in their 60s and 70s that have come to the end of their productive years, and they want to, get out. They're probably not on Facebook. They're probably not on LinkedIn. They watch TV, they read, and they actually get mail, and they read their mail. That's how they go to the mailbox every day. They receive checks, they pay bills, they probably cut a check to the vendor. You have to be familiar with what's this audience that you're dealing with, how they communicate, and mailers are good. Networking, good old-fashioned networking, shaking hands, going to industry events. Sellers really respond very well because that's how they came up. We're talking about baby boomers and some Generation Xers, that's how they deal. Social media less. And word of mouth is actually very powerful. So mailers is number one. So guys, I know I've said a lot right now. Hope this was very helpful to you. Please comment below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching my video. For a limited time, I'm giving away my cash flow calculator, a tool that has been downloaded at least 1,000 times over the last couple of months. This tool is great when you're looking to evaluate the cash flow in a business and want to know how much cash flow there will be left once you get a loan. Great tool when you're buying a business. It is my gift to you. All you have to do is follow the link below, and it's yours to keep. I would love to get your feedback. Thank you so much for watching.